I want to introduce to the stage Charles Bustini of Louisiana.
All right. Gather up here. Gather up. Look, we go to cocktail parties all the time in Washington, but it's a rare occasion when we get to honor true statesmen. So gather up and quiet down a bit so we can have this very short but very important presentation. If you missed the video, you missed an outstanding video with conversations. Too bad. But you probably should have paid attention because it's a really, really outstanding video. So I'm Charles Bustini, and I've had the honor of serving as FMC's president for the past 2 years. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. This is our 25th annual Statesmanship Awards celebration. So thank you for being here tonight on this rainy evening. Tonight we gather here to celebrate the statesmanship, bipartisanship, commitment to results, which seems to be kind of rare nowadays, and of our exceptional slate of congressional and corporate honorees, each of who you should have learned a bit about on the video if you didn't, but if you were paying attention. But anyway, all right. Before I present the awards and we hear from this year's honorees, I want to thank all those who made this night possible. Our FMC Board of Directors, my fellow members of the FMC's Executive Committee, particularly FMC's President-elect L.F. Payne, L.F., the FMC staff, so ably led by Pete Whiteline and Sabina, and the members of the 2022 Statesmanship Awards Steering Committee, including co-chairs Russ Carnahan and Charlie Dent. Russ and Charlie, thank you. And above all, thank you to our outstanding sponsors who made this programming possible, not just tonight, but year-round. Listen, we just went through 2 years of COVID. It was a tough year for everybody, and certainly for nonprofit organizations. Without your support, your sustenance, we could not have done the programming that we've done, and we would not have this kind of celebration tonight. So to all of our sponsors and to all of you, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. So without further ado, this year's 2022 Corporate Statesmanship Award honoree is Allianz SE. We are recognizing them for their work to protect the environment by integrating sustainability in their business practices, as well as their longstanding partnership and support of FMC's Congressional Study Group on Germany. Please join me in welcoming Jasmine Girelli, President and CEO of Allianz Life Insurance Company North America, who is here to accept the award on behalf of the company. Girelli? Where's Girelli?
All right, well, thank you. On behalf of Oliver Beta, the chairman of the Board of Management of Allianz SE, headquartered in Munich, Germany, it is a distinct honor to be here this evening to accept the Corporate Statesmanship Award from the Association of the Former Members of Congress. I'm Jasmine Girelli, President and CEO of Allianz Life Insurance Company of North America. We're headquartered in Minneapolis with about 2,200 employees and a network of 400,000 independent financial professionals across the country. Allianz Life is proud to be a top 10 seller of individual annuities for more than a decade, and in addition, we're the #1 writer of fixed index annuities for 19 of the past 22 years. Our mission is to support individuals and families as they prepare for and live fulfilling lives in retirement, as well as navigating the vicissitudes of life. I am very proud of the hardworking people who have made Allianz Life a successful company and a valued partner for our distribution partners, financial advisors, and our customers. Our Allianz Washington, D.C. representative office, led by Peter Lefkin, has been an almost 20-year member of the Congressional Study Group on Germany, which is administered by the Former Members of Congress Association. We've not only hosted members of Congress and their staffs from the Congressional Study Group at our offices in Munich, Berlin, and Stuttgart, but we have also done reciprocal exchanges in the Twin Cities, where members of the German Bundestag have come to Minnesota. Allianz has also held a Tribute to Germany celebration at the 2008 Republican Convention in St. Paul, where I was pleased to have the opportunity to participate. American ties are a critical part of the Atlantic Alliance, and what has occurred in Ukraine over the last 100 days have only affirmed in both of our countries that the cherished values of democracy, rule of law, and truth shall never be taken for granted. It is a particular pleasure to be on the program alongside Senator Capito and Senator Kaine and Congresswoman DeLauro and Congresswoman Granger. They have all devoted their lives to public service, and they deserve our praise for their commitments and hard work in helping their constituents and the nation as a whole. In this era of instantaneous email and text messages, social media, and a 24-hour news cycle, which is always a tough situation, public service has become an even more challenging calling. Their jobs have become more difficult, and they deserve our gratitude. Our Allianz family of companies in the U.S. includes providers of property casualty insurance, trade credit, travel insurance, as well as asset management. As you heard on the video, Allianz has always had a strong commitment to supporting our local communities. Our group is also a leader in redressing climate change. As one of the world's largest property casualty insurers, Allianz knows firsthand that rising temperatures have severely adverse consequences and the devastation of human life, poverty, and our ecological system. We are committed to working with other financial services companies to accelerate efforts to achieve net zero emissions and to ensure that global temperatures increase by no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Allianz SE is a proud member of the United Nations Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance, as well as the Net Zero Insurance Alliance. We know that businesses must do their part to support renewable energy sources and to advance technologies that make existing energy sources cleaner. We also know that change is only sustainable if we ameliorate affected workers and communities during this transition. It remains one of the highest priorities for our chairman, Oliver Beta, who has called mitigating climate change the challenge of our lifetime. Allianz and I are truly grateful for the recognition bestowed upon us this evening. The 2020s thus far have proven to be incredibly difficult and trying. With COVID, the Ukraine, a trampling of supply chains, and a reduction of social cohesiveness, everyone's lives have become far more stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us, including government and business leaders, to look for achievable solutions to improve the lives of the entire world. We at Allianz are trying and committed to doing our part. Thank you again.
So my understanding is our House members are voting now, so we're going to go straight to our Senate honorees, and we'll bring up the House members later. So moving to our Senate honorees, our first Senate honoree comes from a family dedicated to public service, and her own service dates back to the mid-1990s. She has served in the West Virginia legislature, the U.S. House of Representatives, and now the Senate since 2015. She currently serves as ranking member of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee and has countless bipartisan accomplishments, including being a major driver of last year's bipartisan infrastructure law. Please join me in welcoming Senator Shelley Moore Capito.
Well, thank you, Charles, for your leadership in this great organization and for bestowing this wonderful honor to me. I am absolutely thrilled to be here to see so many of you that I had the privilege of serving with. We were on the same committees. We sat next to each other on the floor. We worked together a lot when I was in the House side, and it's really, truly an honor. We miss you. We miss you a lot. It is also a special honor for me to be honored with my fellow Senator Tim Kaine. He is an inspiration. I've only gotten to serve with him in the Senate, but there's something about those former governors that I sort of like. So Tim is great. And when we did the video, we realized we really have so much in common in terms. So, go to the video later if you didn't see it the first time. And so, Tim, thank you, and thank you for everything you do for West Virginia. Although I am representing West Virginia, which is West Virginia, is what we call West Virginia, in case you missed that. Also, congratulations to Rosa DeLaura and Kay Granger. I was honored to serve with both of them, and they were mentors to me as I was moving through my very first years of service, and so I'm thrilled to be here today. When I was first elected, actually to the State House in 1996, West Virginia was a much different place politically. I was the first Republican elected from West Virginia in 2000 since 1980. So it had been quite a dry spell. It's hard to believe now. I know you all know what West Virginia's politics are now, but they are vastly different than they were when I first started. But my first lessons that I learned in the legislature when I was one of 22 Republicans in a House of Delegates of 100 is if you want to get something done, if you want to be treated with respect, if you want to learn the issues and listen to your fellow members, you've got to be bipartisan. You've got to cross the aisle and say, how can I help? Let's work on something together. Find that common ground. And I did that repeatedly. Such a great training ground for me to then come to the United States Congress. So I've always been a great believer in bipartisanship. Certainly things we're not going to agree on, that's fine, but the things that we can agree on are so very important to this country and to all of us. I was on the Rules Committee. For anybody here who was on the Rules Committee knows what that's like. I was on the Rules Committee for just 2 years, and David Dreyer was the chairman, and Louise was the ranking member at the time. And David charged me with creating a Civility Caucus in the House of Representatives. Imagine trying to do this today. Yeah. So, a bipartisan civility caucus, and Emanuel Cleaver, who's still there, was my helper, and we tried to get together to have bipartisan civil debate on the floor. And we did do it for a while, but we only got 18 members to join us. The wine caucus had 212 members, so maybe we knew what was coming. I don't know. But so Tim and I have worked on a lot of issues. His southern part of Virginia shares a lot of the same issues, the oceans and other issues that we've worked on together. And I think that's a good example of how you can cross the aisle and really get things done. For statesmanship, I've really never thought of myself as a real statesman. But I guess tonight you all think I am. So thank you. Thank you very much. And I think what that means to me, really, I was thinking about this, is it's kind of leading by example. I think you have to be the example that you would want to have people see, but also work with. So I was blessed. My father was a former governor. He was also a 6-term congressman. He had his former member card very prominently placed in his desk when he passed away. And my mother was such an integral part of that. Both of them changed the face of a lot of issues in West Virginia, and they were real statesmen. So I got to see it. I got to see them emulate that, and that's what I've tried to do through my service in the House and now in the Thank you all very, very much for this tremendous honor. Thank you for honoring me with the great folks that you're honoring together with me. Congratulations to Allianz, and thank you to the sponsors that are here. We couldn't do a lot of what we do without you, and we really appreciate it. I would also, former members will know that sometimes this can be a very lonely profession. You spend a lot of time with a lot of people, but you still feel like you're kind of lonely. And in some sense, that's the case has been with me. But I'm never lonely because tonight I have with me, and who I've had with me for 46 years, my husband, Charlie Capito. So. He does give me direction from now and then, but like any good wife, I don't listen to my husband. Anyway, thank you all very much. Thank you, Charles.
So I suppose, Shelley, we need to find a way to get that wine caucus to be more civil, right? That's right, that's right. Before we move to our next honoree, I also want to recognize Charlie Capito. Charlie, thanks for being here tonight. I know it's a sacrifice for spouses, and public service is a family business. You can't do it alone. We all know that. It involves a true level of partnership and sacrifice. So thank you for being here tonight, and thanks to all our honorees. Let's move on next to our next Senate honoree. So this next Senate honoree has brought his signature bipartisan approach to almost too many positions to name: senator, vice presidential candidate, governor, lieutenant governor, mayor of Richmond, Virginia, city council member. You had to deal with potholes too, right? Well, throughout his career, he has worked diligently with his Republican colleagues to invest in public education, to develop our workforce, lower health care costs, ensure our military has the tools that they need, and much more. Please join me in welcoming Senator Tim Kaine. Tim, come on out.
Well, good evening. Thank you, guys. What a wonderful opportunity to be together. Shelley, I was just saying people could really see why you're good at what you do. The way you kind of described your approach. If we disagree, she's one of the least disagreeable people I know, even when you disagree. When you disagree, just set that aside and let's work on the things we agree on. And I'm really thrilled to be here with you, Charlie, to you and the organization. It was an unexpected honor to have you call and say you would like to recognize me. I particularly want to acknowledge my Virginia former members who are here. LF, congrats on being the president-elect. And then I saw Jim Moran and Bob Goodlatte here, and I want to thank both of them for being together with us. I started to think about being a former member when I knew I was going to be here tonight, because I am a former city council member, a former mayor, former lieutenant governor, former governor. I hope to be a former senator one day, no time soon. But if I'm not a former senator, that means I've died in office, which I have no intention of doing. Thinking about the former senators, former congressmen, and the role that you play. You're sort of guardians of the institution. And we need guardians of the institution. We have former members here and Senate colleagues. I saw Doug Jones earlier. I see Blanche Lincoln from Arkansas. We've got former colleagues here. We all share one thing in common. All of us, no matter what our politics or where we're from, there is one thing that we have in common. And that thing that we have in common is this. Oh, I forgot my reading glasses. We've put our hand on the Bible and we've said this: I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter, so help me God. We've all said those words. That is a permanent pledge. There's only one clause in that oath that is time limited. I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office that I'm about to enter in. Every other pledge and oath in that oath of office does not have a time limit on it. We all make that pledge that we will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so since you've made that pledge, we've all made it together, and since it's a permanent pledge, that's what I mean when I say you are guardians of the institution. And the institutions of this country, like the institutions of all countries, have their challenges, have their vulnerabilities, have their weaknesses, and we're living in a time in my life of 64 years, what I would say, our institutions are under some stresses unlike those that I've seen. I said to somebody a few years ago after I got off the ticket, being a popular vote winner but a loser, I call myself an electoral college dropout. I said, I just have a feeling that the next few years are going to see our nation undergo a stress test of all these institutions. And someone asked me recently, so how are we doing on the stress test? And I can say we've survived it. I can't yet say we passed it. And so we need guardians who have taken this oath. Our military takes that oath. Other public servants take that oath, and it's a permanent one, and we need guardians. And that's what you do in your programming and recognizing statesmen and women in doing tours around the world to show the best face of America with former members of Congress. So thank you for being guardians. Last thing I'm going to say is this. Again, a thought about being a former member. Edmund Hillary was the first person who summited Everest. Now, there had been, and this was in late 50s, early 1960s, the great mountaineer. There had been, 1953? 1953. There had been an English climber who in the 1920s attempted a summit of Everest, but then disappeared. I'm sorry? Mallory. Disappeared. And at some point after Edmund Hillary had done this and had been celebrated for summiting Everest with Tenzing Norgay, his guide, he was asked, if someone ever finds Mallory's body and there's a camera and he took a picture and it turned out that he actually summited but fell on his way down, would that diminish your own sense of accomplishment because you would realize that you weren't the first person to summit Everest? And Mallory said, returning from the top of the mountain is a very important part of being a successful mountain climber. Now, that's true about mountains, but he was talking about more than mountains. He was talking about in human life, we have peak experiences, and then we have times between that and our next peak experience. And if you cannot successfully come down the mountain from the peak experience and then look for the next peak experience, then you're not really doing what you should do. Hillary went on to have an amazing future, not only as a mountain climber, but he really invested in education, for example, of Nepalese children, because he had grown so close to some folks there. So I think in life, we have peak experiences, being a House member, being a senator, being a CEO, being a president of a university. There's all kinds of things. We have peak experiences. But part of success is about being able to return to earth after a peak experience and then look for your next peak experience. I don't know all of you former members, but I know many of you pretty well, especially the Virginians. And I can say with certainty that my Virginia friends and many of you, after the peak experience of having been a member or a senator, you've gone on to successfully come back to earth and then find new ways to be contributors to our country and to your communities. And that's the way it ought to be. And so your organization, I think, is put together with that ethos that we want to continue to both be guardians of the institution, but also to be a vehicle for enabling those of us who've had this unique peak experience where we've taken that important oath to find the next peak that we can climb in service to others. So thank you so much for this really kind recognition. And I could just keep filibustering until the House members get here. But no, I think I'll not do that. Thank you very much.
Very well said, Senator Kaine. And let me just say that we all have a lot of work to do. We're all going to have to row together during this difficult time for the country. Now, many of you are thinking the program is over and you want to get back to drinking and socializing. And the answer is yes, you can do that right now. But we're going to have we'll have that break. But when the House members come back, I'm going to demand your attention again. So with that, we're going to stop the program for now, and we will be back. Thank you.